New Thought Media Network proudly presents Having Courageous Conversations, where real talk dives deep. Each week we go beyond surface talk. We open our hearts, speak our truths, and dive into the stories that shape us. No scripts, no filters, just powerful, unforgettable conversations about life, purpose, healing, and truth. Join the conversation, because your voice belongs here. Please like, share, and subscribe. Check out our YouTube channel at Having Courageous Conversations or email us at yourshowyourvoice@gmail.com. Now, let's have a courageous conversation.
The views and opinions of our guest and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of New Thought Media Network, or any organization we may be affiliated with. Here at New Thought Media Network, we welcome freedom of speech and courageous conversations. There are many topics that can be difficult to navigate. Challenging the status quo and engaging in lively debate is important to expanding our understanding of one another, and life in general. Creating a peaceful world doesn't happen because no one disagrees, it happens from a willingness to understanding one another. In our programming, we strive to expand consciousness and assist people in creating remarkable lives. Your comments are welcome at info@ntmedia.org.
Welcome to today's episode of Courageous Conversations, a spirit-led online series where we explore the transformative power of honest dialogue. Rooted in authenticity, compassion, and spiritual awareness, this show invites voices from all walks of life to engage in meaningful conversations. Sometimes conversations we often avoid but deeply need to be having. I'm Cheryl Rogers, and I'm delighted to be here with my beautiful co-host, Mark Dupree, and together we will be guiding this conversation with our wonderful guest today, who's so interesting, Sharon Roberts, and Mark is going to introduce you to her.
Thanks, Cheryl. So happy to have Sharon with us and to have had a conversation just before the show so I could learn a little bit more about her. And Sharon is going to come into the studio now. Thank you, Deja.
Hi.
So Sharon was in journalism, in the health food industry, I believe inspired by her son, and she also became a nutritional practitioner. Sharon's interest in learning disabilities is what's written here, began in 1990 when faced with finding the solution to help her son. He was somewhat hyperactive, could read, but with little comprehension. He found writing and spelling difficult and copying off the board a nightmare. Word problems with math impossible, as well as following instructions. Various things were tried. Some were more successful than others until they discovered the Davis method, which turned things around for him and haven't looked back since. Because of its success, she pursued training and has been in practice for 20 years. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah, you've done a lot.
When it comes to this topic, yep.
Yeah. So 1990. So that's, I don't know how I'm going to show myself. What's that? 36 years.
Well, he was born in 1980. Yeah, about 35.
Yeah.
37. Yeah.
So lots of experience.
I say 1990 because that's when he started showing the speech delays.
Yeah. So tell us about that. Tell us what happened and at what age he started showing these symptoms.
Well, when he went to preschool, the preschool teacher noted that he was a little bit more active than the other 2 and 3-year-olds. And his response to language was limited. So it looked like he understood things, but he didn't know how to respond. And he had a lot of ear infections as well. Mm-hmm. I think he had tubes put in his ears twice. So that was probably responsible for the speech delay, because he wasn't hearing properly to begin with. And before he went to kindergarten, the speech therapist cautiously warned me that there may be some learning disabilities developing because of the speech delay. Mm-hmm. So when I went into kindergarten, I kind of went in knowing that there was a problem with his learning.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then you went in full bore. You dove in. What made you dive in to be the educator?
Well, I don't know. I think I just didn't like to accept what was being said to me. And I thought, well, he'll grow out of it for a while. I thought maybe that would happen. And he had a marvelous grade 1 teacher who said something to me that was quite profound, because teachers are very limited with what they can say to parents. And she said, he can read, but don't take everything that everybody tells you as being a problem. Something to that effect. I went, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
So I have to say, I think she kind of spearheaded this thing, because I always kept this in mind when teachers would complain about him in later years about being hyperactive or not paying attention or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you were hearing all kinds of things, right, that he couldn't do and that he wouldn't be able to do, and that he, I can't remember your wording, but that his IQ may have been a bit lower, and things like that. So tell us when and what drove you to homeschool him.
Well, what happened was in grade 3. So this was the last year that the Ontario government provided psychoed assessments for students. So I was lucky to get on that train. I thought I was lucky to get on that train. So I wanted a psychoed assessment to see where his strengths and weaknesses were, so that something could be done to address it personally for him. So he got the psychoed assessment, and they came up with a very alarming result, saying that he was intellectually educable, which means he has low intelligence. We can educate him, but he shows low intelligence. And that made me very angry, and because I saw talents in him. Mm-hmm. And the main big talent was that he could act. He was involved with children's acting group, and he did really well with that. So I thought, well, that's intelligence. There's intelligence involved. Now, those were the days when they believed the brain was set up to be what it was and it couldn't change. And so their attitude was, I had a bad attitude towards everything, but I thought, this just doesn't make sense. So I ended up homeschooling him for a couple of years. I didn't want to do it necessarily, but I thought, at least I will have the attitude that he is intelligent, and I will expect him to perform, and he won't get lost too much. Mm-hmm. So that's what spurred me on with that.
Wonderful.
When you said bad attitude, what do you mean by that?
The bad.
You said you had a bad attitude. I'm thinking that's what maybe steered you, was that attitude to kick butt and say, I'm going to do this.
Yes. Well, I just questioned everything that they said. It didn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. And there's a theory that I'm trying to think of it's My Fair Lady. What was that? Pygmalion effect. Sorry.
Okay.
No, as you treat people, that's what you're going to get, right?
Yes.
And I was concerned that everybody's going to think, oh, this poor little boy he's not very bright, so
Yeah.
we'll leave him alone,
Yeah.
which is what usually happens.
Mm-hmm.
So I was concerned about that they would treat him as something that couldn't be touched,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's where the attitude came in from me. I said, well, that's not going to work. He's not going to get it with that kind of attitude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it was Winston Churchill, and if somebody knows this, correct me if I'm wrong. He was his mother was told the same thing, that he was like a dunce and he wouldn't grow up to be anything, and all this kind of thing. And she never let him know what they had said, and she treated him as if he was so special and so intelligent and just, could do anything. And he believed her, and then he became prime minister.
Yeah.
Right? So I think moms know.
Well, I had nothing really to fall back on. Actually, there was an incident a couple of years before then when we knew he was having a problem. And my father and I were sitting on a couch watching a movie, and Derek was watching it as well. And I have to think of the name of the movie, the one where the guy's mean and he turns into a lovely prince at the end. French cartoon. Oh, well. Beauty and Beast. Sorry.
Okay.
I'll be doing this throughout the hour.
Yeah. We've got to understand, because we do the same thing.
So we were watching Beauty and the Beast, and at the end, the Beast turns into this lovely prince because he, showed some kindness or whatever, and there's this big scene with him twirling around in the air and becoming this other person. So the movie was finished and my dad and I were talking, and then off into the corner, Derek was enacting that very scene. And I said, what is he doing? My dad said, he's doing the movie. So that's what went click. Okay, so he does understand. Yeah. So you get little clues along the way, and you just follow the clues and you kind of stick to it.
Yeah. And like you said, at home, you could treat him, just like you would treat anybody else. And he wouldn't, I would imagine that school could have been hard for him, not just classes and learning, but bullying and things like that. Children can be quite cruel.
Yeah. Now, he didn't really experience a lot of that. He had friends because he was a very happy child.
Oh, that's good.
But it could have shown up later on because he just wasn't performing like the rest of them. And then there's emotional parts to not being able to do what other people are doing.
Yeah.
So it was sort of protected from that. But when we were homeschooling him, like I had it set up from 9 till 12, we did certain things all the time. And what was the advantage of the homeschooling? I'm not a real advocate of homeschooling in some ways, but it did show me what was going on with him, but I just didn't know how to address it. So I just, he would read something. I knew he knew the information, and I would ask him a question about it, and he would answer inappropriately. And I thought, okay, why is he doing that? Because I know he knows the answer. And I knew that he had troubles with certain words to understand what was being asked, like what and why. And he knew it was a question, so he'd just ramble off some kind of answer without understanding what was being asked. So that clued me into something with him, but I didn't know how to solve it. The method that I do does solve that, but.
Okay.
So in the write-up that we received, it speaks of dyslexia. Was he diagnosed with dyslexia? And fast forward, is this what you are working with?
That's a great question, because that's the myth about dyslexia is often we think of reversal of letters.
Yes.
never ever saw my son reverse letters. So I never realized he was dyslexic because I never saw that, because I had the idea that that's what it was. But dyslexia is the umbrella term for most of the learning disabilities that occur in school. So it could be in math, it can be, there's about 70 different titles that a psychologist can use, but it's under the umbrella of dyslexia. So yeah. And so that was, well, I remember, I don't know, when I was trying to figure things out, watching an episode of Bill Cosby, which maybe is not a good topic, but his show was kind of cute.
Yeah.
And his son, Theo, had difficulty in school. And I remember watching it, and they've discovered he was dyslexic. And I thought, I wonder if that's what my son is, right? Still thinking that he was just hyperactive. But hyperactivity is a sign of dyslexia. So the term is not used very much. It's starting to be used a little bit more now. But what happened was, we used to use it a lot in the 50s and the 60s, but because it embraced so many symptoms, psychologists wanted to narrow down the symptoms, and so they created these psychoed assessments with certain labels, but it's all under the term of dyslexia.
Oh, I didn't know that. I believed exactly what you said, reading, not being able to write or read in the right order, I think.
Yeah. And some still do. Some of my clients do reverse letters and reverse words and stuff like that, but it's not always the case. I actually learned through this process, and even though I did okay in school, I was pushed ahead in school on that I myself think the same way, because I had really good coping skills. I managed okay, and I never reversed a letter.
Yeah. So how long did you homeschool him for?
Just for 2 years.
Okay.
And then he went into a private school setting for children with learning disabilities. And I thought, well, maybe that would, because I wanted him to have some regular interaction. And he didn't like that school. And I didn't like it either. It just didn't seem to be a good fit. So after that, so that was grade 6. So I thought, okay, what are we going to do with them now? So I found another school. It's not in existence anymore, but it was another private school, a Lutheran private school in town. And they accepted him, and he went there. And that was, I did all the interviews. I knew who his teacher was. I knew who the principal was. And wouldn't you know, come September, it all changed. And he had a different teacher and a different principal. And the new principal was great. The new teacher was not so good. And so she was of the belief that the more homework you pile on them, the better. And so what happened in grade 7 is at the end of September, I remember saying this to their dad. I said, if something doesn't happen, I'm going to have a breakdown. And if I don't have a breakdown, he's going to have one, because we were working 12 to 15 hours a week homework just to get by, because he was lost in the classroom. And I felt like I'm paying tuition, so he's in a small classroom, so he's not lost, so he gets a bit of attention. But this particular person wasn't thinking that way. So do you want to hear the rest of it?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glued to this.
Well, so anyway, so that was around the end of September. And my husband then said, well, I was talking to some guys at work, and I'm going, oh God, here we go again. And they recommended this book called The Gift of Dyslexia by Ron Davis. And they say, this is the answer. And I went, oh yeah, right, okay. Because I had read everything I could get my hands on. So, but the following couple of days, I decided, well, maybe I should look into this book. And so I phoned up the local chapters then. It was chapters then. And I said, do you have the book, The Gift of Dyslexia? And they said, yes, we have 10 copies. They're not on the shelf, so just keep calling in and and see when they're on the shelf. I said, okay, great. So that was on a Friday that I called. I remember that.
Mhm.
So the next day, my husband decided to go to Chapters, and he says, do you want anything? He said, well, see if the book, The Gift of Dyslexia, is there. So 2 hours later, he comes back with the book in his hand. He says, you'll never believe this, but the guy that does this stuff was doing a special talk on his program. And he says, I think this is the answer. Well, I'm going like, okay, I said, okay, well, let me give me the book and I'll read it. I had such a bad attitude. But I started to read it that Saturday night, and I thought, okay, I can see where this guy's going, because he was addressing that problem, which I mentioned earlier, with these words that I knew he had difficulty with, that he didn't understand it, and there's a reason for that. And I thought, okay, well, maybe this is something to look into, because we had looked into everything else. So on the Sunday, I had gone to church on the Sunday, and I left early, and I phoned the guy up expecting to leave a message, and he happened to have been in his office. His name was Jerry. And he had a very long conversation with me. And I said, well, okay, I'll look into this. Let's book an assessment and see if this will work. So in October, we had an assessment, and it proved that yes, this could benefit him, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, when can we put him into this program? And he said, not until March. I'm booked up until March. I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do now? I said, okay, so we had booked a week in March for him. And, but that gave me 6 or 5 months to think about this, because this was, of course, more money that we were putting out. And I thought, oh, are we just wasting more money here? Doing this? And then I thought, well, maybe we need to, I mean, as a last resort. And so I actually prayed about it. I thought, I need a sign that this is the program for him. So I said, so I prayed to God, or whatever anybody wants to call God. And I said, I need this guy in January, and I'll know that this is for him. And so in January, the second week of January, Jerry called me. He says, I have a cancellation the end of January. Would you be interested? I went, yeah. Okay.
That was your sign.
So that's how we got into it.
Yeah.
And we never looked back. It's just, well, the amazing thing was, he could go back into the classroom and know what was going on, which saved a lot of homework time. But there was work involved afterwards, which we did do as well. But it was just a miracle for him what this program did for him.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, but it was all kind of timing and orchestrated by another being. I don't look at it that way.
So tell us what you learned about this process that turned things around for him.
Well, the person who developed the program, which is Ron Davis, he wasn't an educator. He was actually an engineer by profession and a sculptor, and he did all kinds of real estate person. He was very much an entrepreneur. But he also had a problem with reading. He read at a grade 2 level, and he was trying to figure out why that was the case. So the program that my son took was the way this man fixed his own reading problem. And he discovered 2 things. There's a perceptual talent that dyslexics have, which is to be able to alter their perceptions at will. And then they have really good imaginations, and they think in pictures. So he applied those principles that they can shift their perception and they think in pictures, and developed a program to correct the problem. So the main thing, the shifting the perceptions is really an important ingredient, because whenever a person who is dyslexic is confused, they shift their perceptions. So what's the big deal with that? Well, I don't know if I can show. Okay, so this is a mug.
Yeah.
So is this. So is this. So when you're shifting your perception, it's still a mug. Doesn't matter in real world. But when we're introduced to symbols and letters, I don't know if I can do this very well. So this is what letter?
A
D.
D.
A D?
Mhm.
I don't know what you see because I'm on the opposite
Oh,
end.
well, it's probably turned around. It could be a D or a B,
Okay. What do you see it as?
and it could be a 6 too.
Well, it's a letter.
It's a letter. I see a D. I'm going to
Okay.
say D.
So let's say you were confused. So when a person who with dyslexia is confused, they automatically shift their perception because they're trying to solve a problem. So I'm shifting my perception and it becomes something else.
Okay.
That's the problem. So they shift their perceptions when they're confused. Now that works good in creative endeavors, sports endeavors. You need to be able to shift your perception.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to dealing with symbols, it becomes a problem. So he developed a technique to be able to control that perception when needed. So we're not changing the person, we're just giving them a switch to turn it off when needed. So that's the first part of it. And we have to figure out what causes confusion. So we use, well, I call it clay, but it's plasticine. And we create the alphabet, upper and lower case. We look at all the kinds of symbols that you are involved with reading, and we make those. And then we hit those words that I mentioned earlier, which trigger words, or they're usually the sight words. So you have to kind of follow the logic here. If you're a picture thinker, every word that you hear or read with, you need a picture in order to think with it. So if you come across a word that you have no picture for, you're confused, you alter your perceptions. And 1 out of 4 words in English are these words that we've never been given a picture for. We were just taught with flashcards. THE spells think of it. But there's actually, so we have to create a picture for what a the is. And there's a process to that.
Wow.
And so that's how we solve it. So there's 219 of those words that we've identified. And so in a typical week that a child would take, they wouldn't get 219 words done. They have to do that afterwards, but they get a few words done.
Wow. So they are learning to see that word as a picture, not the letters.
Yes and no. So can I give you an example?
Sure.
Can I suggest that we just go, because I was going to ask for an example.
Oh, okay.
We're halfway through.
Okay.
And let's come back to the example, like maybe using the as an example. So we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Okay.
We'll be back in about less than 5 minutes.
Okay.
A couple of minutes.
Having Courageous Conversations is proudly sponsored by Unity Kitchener. We are a welcoming spiritual community where open dialogue, personal growth, and authentic connection are encouraged. Join us Sundays at 10:30 a.m. Eastern for inspiration, reflection, and meaningful conversation. Learn more at unitykitchener.org. Unity Kitchener, a positive path for spiritual living.
Come expand your spiritual journey. Join us for Just the Talk. Sundays, 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Experience Unity Kitchener and Ottawa. Center for Spiritual Living Midtown. Center for Spiritual Living Denver. Unity of Garden Park. New Thought, Philadelphia. The Sunshine Cathedral. Unity of Savannah. And the Ohm Center for Spiritual Living. Come unleash your spiritual potential with New Thought Media Network.
We're back. Thanks for waiting and staying tuned. And now, Sharon, you are going to talk about the picture we see, or that I'll just leave it over to you because I'm not creating my words very well here.
Okay. Well, when I do talks about this, I give out some words. So I'm going to say some words to you, and you tell me the picture that you get. So
Okay.
now, before I start, there are people who do think with words and sounds. And then there are people who think with pictures, and then there's people who think with both. Okay. So the dyslexic is mainly in pictures. Okay. So I'm going to give you some words, and you tell me what you imagine. Zebra. What do you see for zebra?
Striped animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, an animal with stripes.
With stripes. Do you see the front of the animal or the side of the animal?
I'm looking at the side.
How about you, Marg?
This side, the whole front to back side.
And if you saw the front, that would still be okay.
Yeah.
Still identifies a zebra. Books. What do you see for books?
I see a pile of books.
Pile of books? Are they hardcover or soft cover?
Hardcover.
Hardcover. How about you, Marg?
I see the pages.
Oh, okay. Of a lot of books?
Just one. Just one with the pages open. Yeah.
Okay. Well, school. What do you see for school?
I see a building like in the distance with an open space for break, for playing and sport.
So you see the outside?
Yes.
What is it, the school you went to?
It's similar to one that I went to when I was in, I don't know what you have it here, standard 4 and 5.
Okay. How about you, Mark? What do you see for school?
I see the outside of, this is fun. I see the outside of a building as well, brick, and it's interesting because it has almost like a chapel, a steeple to it.
Mm.
And I was educated in the Catholic Church, so I'm guessing the two of them go together.
Yeah, yeah. But it's still, you have a picture to identify what a school is.
Yeah.
Yes.
How about car?
I just see a blue car.
Okay. What do you see, Mark? I keep going.
Small, that's okay. A small car.
Small
I
car.
see the
What
side
color?
of the car with wheels, green for some reason, green, yellow.
Green, yellow? Ooh.
I know.
Okay.
What does that say about her? Please tell me.
I'm not sure. But I don't want her car. What do you see for home?
Home. I see the place I'm living in.
Okay, yeah. Do you see the outside or the inside?
Inside.
Okay, a particular room?
Just because I'm in one room, but it feels like the whole
Okay.
building.
What do you see for home, Mark?
This is just very weird. I feel very scrambled. Like I
Okay.
don't see a building. I'm not in a room. Like I'd have to really hone in on a home. Like I'd have to say, okay, what am I looking for? Like it's just all very scrambled.
Oh,
If
really?
that makes sense. Yeah. I'm not picturing anything. I'd have to, hone
Okay.
in on. Yeah.
Well, that's different.
I'm always different. People are always saying, Marg, you're so different.
I'm going to hit you now, Mark, first. What do you see for the? What's the picture?
The word.
That's not a picture. That's a word.
Oh,
What do you get?
a page.
That's not a picture.
Mhm.
But what do you get, Cheryl?
Yeah, nothing.
Nothing.
Mm.
And that's the problem. So one of every 4 words we use in English,
Mhm.
words we have no picture for. So
Mhm.
if you're a word thinker, you don't need the picture. You can think with it anyway, but the sound in that. But for the dyslexic, they cannot think with it. So 1 out of 4 words, let's just say they can read, because there are dyslexics that can word call. It's the picture that they get that makes them understand. So when they're reading a sentence, they're getting a lot of blanks. And what's happening is they're getting more and more confused. So when they come to the second or third paragraph, they say, I don't know what this is about.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And
yeah.
Who, what?
That, this, there. Like, what's the difference between that and this? Well, I mean, then there's when and then. A lot of people have problems with that. They say then instead of when, and there's a slight difference.
Yeah.
So what we do is we're picking at stuff and solving it, and we're making models, because this is a creative process. It's hands-on. So we learn how to do a word. We do some practice words first to get the idea of how to show something. But the word the, every client of mine does the word the with me because it's such a common word. So you look it up in the dictionary. There's actually a meaning for the word the. Talk about, now, how in the world are we going to make that? You'd be surprised what they come up with. So they'll make the model of the word, then they make a model, like a model of the definition, then they make a model of the word. So they have the definition in front of them in a picture format, 3D visual, and then they have the model of the word, and then they say what the word means. Now, unlike school, that doesn't mean that 2 weeks from now we say, what's the word the mean? Because you don't always know the meaning for things. You still have pictures for it. Like when I said zebra, you don't go, you find them in Africa and they're black and white and some are kind of brown and white. You don't go into a big rehearsal over what the meaning is. You just know, right? And that's what happens for the dyslexic with the word the. So a lot of dyslexic people, not all, but some, have problems with are directionally challenged. And they don't get what over and on and in and into and onto. They make mistakes all the time, and this solves the problem with that, because those are all words that they can't think with. So the word what and why and how and when and where are all the words that they would have problems figuring out what you're asking for.
That's so interesting. And that he found a way to be able to manage that. Yeah,
and he went back to his roots as a child, the founder of this system. He was originally diagnosed as a Canner's baby, which was a term used for autism. So he's quite elderly now. And he was from the state of Utah. And he was, I guess, nonverbal. And I'm guessing at that. I think he was. Forgive me, Ron, if I said the wrong thing. But anyway, when he was growing up, he was refused things that his brothers were able to have, which was a stopwatch and one of those little pen knives to play with. So he used to use the soil in Utah and put some water to it and make a stopwatch and a pen knife for himself every day, so he'd be like everybody else. So that's where he kind of got the idea using clay, so to solve the words, because in his process of figuring out why he couldn't read, so he learned to kind of a focusing technique, which permitted him to be able to read his first book. But then he found he sort of lost a little bit of his fluency. And so then he tried to figure out why that was. He discovered it was those words, so that's where he used the clay to solve the words. And then there's been no problem since. He's written two books. A third one's coming out short. Wow. I don't know when.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Well, when you think about it, like I was just thinking, I'm reading here a sentence off to the side of our screen here. Join us as we reframe what it truly means to learn differently. Well, the words there, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 words. Us, as, we, what, it, and to. 6 out of those words are words a dyslexic can't think with.
Half of them, yeah.
They're like little bombs that hit them.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you teach them to associate a picture with that word,
Mm-hmm.
do that's something that is they take into their memory. So
Yeah.
when they're reading, it'll all be pictures, and that picture that they've been taught for those words will come up as that picture.
Yeah. I'll relate it to an experience that I had, because like I went to university and I majored in history and political science. I majored in it because I could write, and there's a lot of reading, and I could read and I could write and I could do that. I really wanted to major in psychology, but psychology courses are a lot of multiple choice kinds of questions, and I could not do multiple choice. I could study and study. I would I passed my first year psychology course, but not by much. And the reason why I passed it was because I could write an answer, so it kind of
Yeah.
protected the low mark in the multiple choice. But I thought, oh, well, I guess I can't do psychology because I can't do multiple choice. So when I went to study for the nutritional program that I took, which was online, it was all multiple choice. So this is several years later, me doing all these words with my son and myself and all of that. And I thought, well, this will be interesting. And I got it. Like I would read it and I thought, oh, I get it. Because, they always offer two answers that are very similar. They're always the right answer.
Yeah.
And I could see the difference between it. And it is those words that made the difference. Did I read it with like full, computing what the definitions were? No, I just got it. That's the only way I can describe it, is just get it. First, it says, sitting there, do they mean this? Do they mean that? I think they mean this. And, you just know what they're asking.
Yeah.
And you know the answer. Yeah. So that was my experience. So I would assume it would be similar like that.
Yeah.
For others.
Okay.
Now, you said earlier what your son is doing now.
Yeah.
Yes. Please.
Well, he is an actor. He went to school, to theater school, and he lives in London, and he does a lot of acting in London. He makes his living. He works in a furniture place in delivery and receiving area. So he's a very muscular guy. And he works also at a grocery store, and then he sometimes gets paid for acting, sometimes he doesn't. So that's what he does.
And that's what he loves, is acting.
Yeah. He's going full tilt with it now this year. He's on a roll. He says, this is it. I'm going to go and see if I can do this and make a living out of it. So we'll see.
Yeah.
When he's famous, he'll come on your show.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
And even when he's not famous, because if he is willing to share his story, I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people could learn a lot from that too.
Yeah.
Right?
I noticed even, fortunately for him, he had a really good memory as a young boy. And so he, when he was in theater, children's theater, he could memorize his lines and stuff. But I noticed in the play that he was in last year, for some reason, I was helping him with his lines. The difference in him even knowing his lines, because he used to mix up those little words on his lines, and people would get mad. No, that's not the right word, because you're supposed to know it verbatim, right? And there was a big change in that. It wasn't. So even it enhances your already natural talents.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Did he ever say, sorry, Sharon.
No,
Sharon.
go ahead.
Did he ever say anything or do something that you went, wow, I never thought of it that way? Or did he provide you with education in some way?
He definitely provided me with an education. He has a lot of fortitude to put up with a mother who was crazy. He was trying to figure out what was going on. He's a very insightful person, and very philosophical. But I mean, that was a learning experience with us both, because I was, when he had to do the words, I did words along with him, because I recalled, said, gee, I used to have problems with that word. I used to have problems with that and this. I knew that. I thought, what's the difference, So we kind of learned together. Yeah.
Yeah. And interesting that you only noticed that through working with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. The certain similarities.
Yeah. You're reminded about things when you're dealing with somebody, and then because there was it just made me remember things that I experienced as a girl.
Yeah.
Like getting complaints that I wasn't focusing. I thought, well, I thought I was focused. How do you focus? You tell a kid to focus. Well, how do you do that?
Yeah.
So the technique that we use to control their visual spatial thinking is a focusing tool. So now they're shown how to focus. So we actually have a method that's for the teaching community. Can I talk about that?
Yes, please.
100%.
This is really interesting because right now the status quo is going to say, well, there's not enough research. Well, I'll tell you the research that we have done. And it seems to be working for both kinds of learners, both the visual spatial learner and the word thinker. But there's a school in India, and you're going to ask me where it is. It starts with a C, and it's in the southeastern part of India. It's a big city.
Calcutta?
What is it?
Calcutta?
No.
Okay.
I
know.
H something. Anyways, there's a woman there. Her name's Priti, Priti, and she is a teacher there, and teaches in a private school of 6,000 students.
Wow.
And she was given the okay to have a special class of indigo children. So these were the children that obviously had learning disabilities. So she went through the gambit of courses that our organization offers. So there's a bunch of things that we can do. So she did what I did, and autism, and then teaching, and she's a specialist and all. She's got it all. So with the support of her principal, although he's not called a principal there, they've instituted this program for indigo children. Now, this has been in existence for about 10 years. So what would happen, my understanding is, they would see children in the regular system. So they have like little groups inside of the school for different things. So the regular kids, if they saw there was a need for special ed, they would go to the indigo side. And so she would do the program, I guess, with them and start correcting their dyslexia. But in the meantime, she was training teachers how to teach in this style and to see if we could prevent the thing from happening. So there's a program from pre-kindergarten to grade 3 that teachers can provide that will address all these problems that a dyslexic might encounter. So by the time they're finished grade 3, they've done all those words that I was talking to you about. They know how to focus and all that. So meanwhile, over the years, these kids were being streamed over to her. But when they actually got a class that started in kindergarten and finished grade 3 with all this program, she wasn't getting any more students in her indigo class. So now she's opened up the class. My understanding is to the community to bring their kids in there.
Wow.
That's hope. That's amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, who needs more proof than that?
Yeah, I know. Right? But it wasn't developed by a PhD. That's the problem, part of the problem.
Unreal. Yeah.
The saying, when you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
Is the saying that's going through my head. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It also made me think of there's what do you call that? Is it a fable or I don't know. I'll just tell you what it is. It made me think of, there's a monkey, there's an elephant, there's a fish, and a tortoise, let's just say. I'm making that up.
Yes.
And they're standing there together, and somebody says, "Okay, now climb that tree."
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
There's a book called Fish Don't Climb Trees by one of our facilitators in Vancouver. Her name's Sue Hall, and she heads up a charity called the Whole Dyslexic Society.
Mhm.
And but anyways, she wrote a book called that and talking about that idea.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. I mean, are we disabled because we don't fit what's being taught to us?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or can we learn? And we think we can learn.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing for me is, I think many of us, well, I'll say myself, struggled through school. I really didn't like school, and I would get C's, and I would be so happy with that. My mother would tell me, well, you can do better, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I think about my youngest son, who was so excited that he was going to school, that he was going to learn things, and he was just so looking forward to it. And after 2 days, he was so disillusioned and didn't want to go back.
Yeah. And that's sad.
It's so sad.
Because they're very curious people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like they've been given this diagnosis and it's wrong. It's like, let's say you're a healthy person, you're being told you have cancer. Like, huh? It's almost cruel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that with good intentions, the school tries to do what they can, but you have to recognize how they think, and they don't have a way of showing them how to do the same thing with the way they think. That's the issue.
Yeah. I think what I'm also, my point is, though, that we all are channeled into this path, that's very narrow.
Yeah.
And today, I mean, they're learning that there's different styles. There's audio, there's visual, but in those days, there was none of that.
Yeah.
You just had to go down that narrow path and do what you were told.
Yes. And I think of some of the kids that I went to school with who maybe didn't perform very well, where they were very likely dyslexic people. Mm-hmm. And so they carry that with them, that I can't do something because it's kind of obvious because I didn't get an A or a B. Mm-hmm. Maybe I failed. And what a sad way to start your life off.
Yeah, with, absolutely. Yeah. I'm not good enough.
Yeah, I'm not good enough. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
When they probably are more than good enough.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, some of those supports that have been in place for some years now have been taken away so we not the same support as you're offering, Sharon, but other supports, right? And we've gone backwards in some ways, and it's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's very unfortunate.
I mean, in the 25 odd years that I've been playing around with this, I mean, in the beginning, everybody thought I was crazy or this method was crazy. And, you just got to accept facts that this person can't learn. And at least that has changed, because now we know the brain can change and it's not set for life. So that's a good thing. And I think that at least with the computer helps, because everybody's on computers. It doesn't make the child feel too much differently than somebody else. Mm-hmm. But so that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. The only bad thing to that is that sometimes they don't recognize they're actually having a problem. Mm-hmm. And they rely on it too much. And then, as you know, you still have to have some degree of literacy to operate a computer.
Mm-hmm. Hear that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At least the attitude's a little bit different, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Wow. We are coming up to the end of the show, and this has gone so quickly for me, because I'm sure there's so much more we could talk about and learn. just from your experience and what you're sharing. It's wonderful to hear that there are these tools and these ways of managing things so that kids can feel like they belong, like they like everyone else,
Yeah.
that they're not so different,
Yeah.
Which I think is wonderful. So if there was one thing that you would like to leave with our viewers or listeners thinking about, or what would you say?
Wow. That's a big question.
It is, yeah.
You threw me for a loop there.
I'm sorry. I'm Canadian as well, so the quicker, I'm sorry just comes out.
Well, don't always believe what people tell you. If your instincts say something differently, follow your instincts. You might be on the better path that way.
Yeah, and that's a great answer, Sharon. Absolutely, because that's what led you down your path. You did, and you discovered other ways. So that's beautiful. Well, Marg, is there anything you would like to say before we wind down?
Before we go, when you were talking about the fish in the tree story, it just reminded me a couple of weeks ago, I was telling somebody about the frog in the tree. The frog that can't climb the tree, and if you always say climb, and it just wasn't resonating. And then it was like, no, it's a fish. It's a fish. And it's so interesting that you brought that up today, Cheryl.
Yeah. Okay, good. So now you can go back and tell the story, or
yes, this is true. This is
fish,
true.
not a frog.
It is a fish, not a frog, and now it makes sense. And today's show, thank you, Sharon, for sharing. I've got your website. I'm going to click it because I think I can pass on information to some people that I know.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, for me, I think as we get older, I'm a grandmother now, so you see the younger generation raising their kids, and you can't say anything. And so, for me, it's really about just listen to different things and different people's experiences to understand how we can be better parents.
Yeah. And, I always say to people who are just vaguely interested, just get the book and read it. The book is an easy read.
Yeah.
See if it resonates.
Yeah. But, each child is so different. And we don't pick these things up until somebody else who knows something is able to see it and say something.
Yeah.
And I think being gentle on ourselves too, right? If you become aware of something that is a challenge, be gentle on yourself and see if you can go to Sharon's website and read the book and
And the other thing for me is to think about that we don't have to all be the same. That's not that I don't believe is the aim of life on earth.
Thank goodness.
So value your differences, value your uniqueness, don't try and be like everybody else.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I know we just have a minute to spare, but that reminds me that when I was working in the health industry, that's when I first realized that there were a lot of people who were supposedly disabled. And I thought, is this possible that all these people have a disability? If all, like they say, 1 out of 4 people are dyslexic. Some people say 1 out of 3. I don't know where they get that stuff. But anyway, I mean, can you imagine if 1 out of 3 children had a broken arm? Wouldn't we be alarmed?
Absolutely.
So
absolutely. Well, thank you once again, Sharon. This has been so interesting. You're an absolute delight. To people out there, please like, share, and subscribe, and share this this show from today with anyone who you think may be able to benefit from it. And yeah, so we'll see you all next week. Bye.